Bring in show music, please.
Hi, I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Coming up today on Squawk Pod. Was your holiday dinner table discussion dominated by Bitcoin or Beyonce?
Who made more money, the NFL or Beyonce?
The largest streaming service launches NFL games on Christmas Day with a memorable halftime show.
I don't know what Beyonce gets paid. I have no sense of that.
She doesn't do weddings and bar mitzvahs, I can tell you that.
Checking in with the CEO of Ministry of Supply, the cult direct-to-consumer clothing brand.
What's great about it is it's almost like wearing athletic wear, but it looks like business wear.
Plus, Julia Boorstin on Disney's challenges at the box office.
Now, next year will be the ultimate test of CEO Bob Iger's focus on turning around the studios.
And Steve Kovac on the top apps under the Christmas tree this year.
Tony's, yes.
Do you know that one?
Yes, I do.
It is Thursday, December 26th. Squawk Pod begins right now.
Stand Andrew by in 3, 2, 1. Cue Andrew.
Good morning and welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. We are live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah to everybody. I'm Andrew Ross Sorkin along with Melissa Lee, Joe, and Becky are off today, and it's nice to hang for 3 hours.
Nice to be here.
Did you have a good holiday?
I had an excellent Christmas. Thank you for asking.
Presents
Oh,
that you want to
too
share?
many.
No, good ones?
Oh,
Anything
for me?
For you and the stocking?
No, for the children.
For the children. But
Lego sets galore.
Lego sets galore.
Yeah.
But nothing that you got that you're very pleased with. Any returns then?
We'll get into that in a bit.
In a bit.
It's extended. You know, this
It's
is
a three-hour broadcast.
We have a lot of time to discuss this.
We do. We're talking about a potential Santa Claus rally, though, frankly, about 10 days before the Christmas, we had the opposite. We had a little bit of a Grinch coming early. Stocks rising, though, on Tuesday in the holiday short and trading session. The Dow up 390 points. The S&P 500 gaining 1.1%. The NASDAQ up by 1.3%. Tuesday marked the start of, as we described it, the Santa Claus rally. That's what they call this period from here to basically the last 5 trading days of the year, the first 2 in January as well. Since 1950, folks, the S&P 500 has now generated an average return of 1.3% during this period. So not a bad gamble.
No.
All things considered. This came up at our Christmas Hanukkah holiday.
Oh, Bitcoin.
How could it
I
not?
thought you were going to say the 2-year yield.
The two-year yield did not come up at the holiday festivities, but Bitcoin at $95,482. The question in the family was, is there a floor at 70,000, and is this like a great buy right now?
70 based on a technical level.
This is
or is
the
this
children.
Like
The children watch
call?
the children watch the broadcast. Mike Novogratz has talked about
70.
potentially on the downside 70. We've had some chartists, if you will,
Yes.
who've come in, have also talked about this sort of 70, 75-ish range. But both of them also have like a massive upside on the thing too. So the question is, how market timey do you want to be? That was the question at the table.
If you were a long-term investor.
If you're 14 years old.
If you're 14 years
If you're 14 years old, what is the right thing to do? That's the question.
I wouldn't worry about plus or minus 20.
Well, then, so you'd go long.
If you're 14, you're the
Should
longest you
should
can
you be very long?
be.
No, but should you be very long Bitcoin? We had another person at the table who said it's going to go down to 5,000, and that 10 years from now we'll all be laughing. Meanwhile, I don't know if you see what's happening in Russia. Did you see this article in the Wall Street Journal today?
About
how they're using now Bitcoin.
Oh.
Like extensively.
Yeah.
Because, yes, but like at like lengths I never even appreciated, and that may make it harder for President Trump to actually really go all in on Bitcoin because there's the sovereignty of the dollar and what that means to these other countries. It's very interesting.
There's also the MicroStrategy element.
Well, there is.
And you have to wonder how much of a floor or support MicroStrategy is as
the whole
they
thing.
continue
Right.
to issue new stock, which
That's
they
also-
just filed to
But
do.
that's also crazy that one company could be the entire floor of a.
Well, no, I'm not saying it's the entire floor
Right.
of a huge giant market, but
I'm just saying
it's a force and it's a psychological.
It's a force, right?
You know, all right. To Netflix here. The debut of the NFL on Netflix was mostly glitch-free, aside from a microphone issue at the beginning of the pregame show. Yesterday's pair of games was broadcasted on the streaming service without a hitch. Both games are blowouts. The Chiefs easily defeated the Steelers 29-10, and the Ravens beat the Texans 31-2. Beyonce's halftime show provided more excitement than maybe the games did. She rode into the field on a white horse, brought out special guests Shabuzi and Post Malone during her 13-minute performance. Back in May, Netflix inked a 3-year deal with the NFL to broadcast Christmas Day games. The rights extend internationally, marking the first time an NFL game has been distributed globally by one outlet. And of course, there were concerns about the technical side of things in terms of Netflix's long-term strategy to offer live programming because of that Tyson Jake Paul fight, where we had lots of glitches, but they seem to have really,
do we know
to be expected, they
whether
fixed it.
who made more money, the NFL or Beyonce? So Netflix, I believe, spent, some of the reports are about like $150 million
Over three
years. How much? We don't know how much Beyonce got.
No.
Do we think Beyonce got more than the NFL on a per game basis?
On a
per game basis. So they're getting 2 games. They're getting 6 games for $150 million.
Right.
Right. That's what we're talking about here. So you want to call it for even math, $40 million a game? Just to make it easy. Do we think that she got $40 million?
It sounds like you do. You think so?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't think she did it for less than 20.
I don't know what Beyonce gets paid. I have no sense of that.
I don't think she doesn't do weddings and bar mitzvahs. I can tell you that.
Not the kind that we are invited to, at least.
Right.
But the advertising for Netflix, that's got to be huge. And over 3 years, think this is like an early product, the ad tier model, how much it gains steam over the course of 3 years with these big events. So
I'm reevaluating. Maybe she got 20.
Meantime, shares at Japan Airlines briefly dipped overnight before recovering. The company said it resolved a system malfunction caused by a cyber attack. Ticket sales were briefly halted. The airline now says systems have been restored without any leakage of customer data, and there is no damage from that virus.
Okay. Meantime, we got an update, though, on that American Airlines outage on Christmas Eve. You might recall it happened actually while we were on the broadcast. A lot of folks worried about what was going to happen there. The company said that a network hardware issue affected operating systems by DXC Technology, the vendor that maintains America's flight operating systems. Now, the airline resumed flights. If you remember, it was just like an hour, but it was a long hour if you were sitting in that airport worried that it might turn into a 24-hour situation. About 1,000 flights had been delayed Tuesday. That was more than 40% of its schedule. Only 13 of American's mainline flights were canceled, although regional subsidy, we wish they were subsidies. Their subsidiary, Envoy, had 17 cancellations. Also, a disturbing story from Hawaii. Authorities say that a dead body discovered in the wheel well of a United Airlines plane that landed in Maui on Tuesday. The flight originated in Chicago. It's such an unusual story. I don't know if you saw it. Maui police investigating have not publicly identified the person. United Airlines says the body was found in one of the compartments housing the airplane's landing gear, an area that's only accessible from the outside. So the only way to get there is from the outside of the aircraft. Unclear how or when the person accessed the wheel well. Was it somebody who was
like a wannabe stowaway kind of person?
I don't think anybody really knows what.
Having fun and got trapped somehow.
And did it just happen? Was it something? That was the other thing that was suggested.
How long the body was in there? If it was.
That was the
suggestion.
That maybe
it didn't
just
there. Or
there was one suggestion that it didn't just happen. Like it didn't just happen right now.
That a dead body was put in the wheel well.
Oh no, that maybe this person had been there for.
Oh, for a long time. I'm sure they can tell that through forensics. Yeah.
Are you sure? Are you sure they can tell that through forensics? You can hope.
Do you watch SVU, Andrew?
CSI.
Then you know that they can tell.
Boston beer founder Jim Koch outlining his succession plan. For years, he said that his plan was, quote, don't die. Not a bad plan, by the way. Now he says his wife, Cynthia Fisher, will inherit his controlling interest in the company. Fisher is a healthcare entrepreneur, also a Boston beer board member. She has been married to Koch now for more than 30 years. Koch said he has no plans to retire soon. So a succession plan of sorts. Not really.
Why is that of sorts? Really it's a succession plan. Somebody else is taking over.
He's taking over.
That somebody happens to be his wife.
His wife, right. It's interesting for a public company, right?
It's
unusual.
It's unusual.
Tease will be next.
Coming up, Disney's dominant box office in 2024, even with a Mufasa issue.
I don't like the real animals talking.
You don't?
I want cartoon. I want it to be cute and fuzzy. I can't accept it in my head.
And athleisure comfort, but make it business. One of Andrew's favorite things this year, Ministry of Supply. The apparel CEO puts tariff planning right up there with staying wrinkle-free. Aman Advani.
We have seen this come before, and we are preparing for it to come again, but it's not so easy as pick up and move, right? It does take years of planning.
Squawk Pod will be right back. This is Squawk Pod.
You're watching Squawk Box right here on CNBC. I'm Andrew Sorkin, along with Melissa Lee. A day after Christmas and Hanukkah, Joe and Becky are off today. We got a whole bunch of big stories to tell you about. Disney's Mufasa may have opened last weekend short of expectations on disappointing reviews, but our Julia Boorstin says Disney won the box office this year, and it's facing high stakes to try to keep it up. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Andrew. Well, even with the disappointment of Mufasa's slow opening last weekend, Disney returned to its spot atop the box office market share this year after falling behind Universal last year, setting up a potentially massive 2025 for Disney Studios. Now, Disney Studios have an estimated 25% market share this year, according to ComScore. It was the first studio to cross $2 billion in an annual domestic box office with 3 of the top 5 films of the year: Moana 2, Inside Out 2, and Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, while Mufasa's opening last weekend did fall short of expectations and did raise some concerns about his upcoming Snow White, the studio got a big boost from its Bob Dylan biopic, A Complete Unknown, that opened yesterday to positive reviews and awards buzz. Now, next year will be the ultimate test of CEO Bob Iger's focus on turning around the studios. It expands from the 8 wide releases it had this year to 12 wide releases next year, including sequels to Captain America, Zootopia, and Avatar, what ComScore says is Disney's best slate since before the pandemic, as the studio is under pressure to continue to turn old franchises into new blockbusters, as it did with Moana and Inside Out. Now, Disney shares have lagged the S&P 500 since Iger restructured the companies 2 years ago to prioritize the quality of films, among other things. And the films are key not just for the studio performance, but also to drive content across all of Disney's divisions, including Disney Plus and the parks. Andrew?
What is your take on this Moana situation for real? Is this a problem? Is it a huge problem? It seems to be doing
the Moana situation or Mufasa situation?
Mufasa situation, I'm sorry.
The Mufasa situation. Well,
Yes.
What's interesting is we haven't actually gotten the box office numbers for Christmas Day yet. So they're a little bit delayed because of the holiday. And the international opening of Moana has been quite huge. So atop the box office in the UK and other European territories. So I think Mufasa is going to hold up well over the course of the holiday season. So I think it's not problematic. I mean, I personally saw the film and enjoyed it with my kids, but I think really what we're going to see here is that families are looking for films to see over the holidays. We did see the Sonic sequel top the box office last weekend, but I think that this just shows that it's really hard to nail this digital animation, and some people have a hard time with it. You know, they're either wanting to see something that looks more like traditional animation, and obviously The Lion King was such an iconic film. But I think this is a film that will probably have longer legs because it appeals to that family audience.
I've got a. What?
I don't like the real animals talking.
You don't?
I want cartoon.
Why
I
not?
want it to be cute and fuzzy. I can't accept it in my head. I'm old-fashioned that way.
I mean, that's the question, and I think it'll be interesting because there are also a lot of digitally animated animals in Snow White, right? That's the next comparison coming up, and so the question is whether that realism of those digitally animated creatures is confusing to people, but also whether we see that this is a film that ends up doing fine over the long run because it's such an iconic brand, and also it's such a global brand. I mean, it's not just about the domestic box office for a film like Mufasa.
Julia Boorstin, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas. Thank you. It's nice to see you. I want to turn to the state of the consumer this holiday season and how retailers expect President-elect Trump's proposed tariffs to impact business. Joining us right now is Aman Advani. He's the co-founder and CEO of Ministry of Supply. It's a largely direct-to-consumer clothing company. It's got a store, though, a big one in Boston. It specializes in work leisure for men and women, some of the most comfortable, not work from home, work from office clothes. Right, Aman?
That's right. If Greer Consulting is right, we'll need a lot more comfortable dress clothes if people are heading back to offices. So,
are you wearing? Just so we know, I hope are you sporting some of this stuff right now?
Oh, always. You can't catch me outside of if I'm awake. It's the Ministry of Supply.
I made a crucial error this morning. I do own some Ministry of Supply shirts and other things, and I thought I could wear them today. They're stretchy. What's great about it is it's almost like wearing athletic wear, but it looks like business wear.
That looks nice.
But I should have worn it. The collar for me.
It's not stiff enough.
Aman, we should discuss this. It's not totally TV friendly. The collar with a tie, but that's a different discussion.
With a tie, yeah, fair enough.
Let's talk though about the tariff piece, because I feel like you guys have been thinking about this for a long time and have actually addressed some of it already.
That's right. We had a bit of a dry run, right? A lot of this started happening in 2018, 2019. We saw some of this coming. So, I mean, again, if you think about it, you just gave such a generous introduction to our company, aside from the feedback, of course. But we make performance dress clothes for business class, right? We everything we make is backed by patents and partnerships with NASA and MIT and electronically heated jackets, right? So we can't just pick up and move overnight. The equipment, the know-how to make the clothes we make has taken us a decade of R&D that's happened right here in Massachusetts in our labs. And so we have seen this come before, and we are preparing for it to come again, but it's not so easy as pick up and move, right? It does take years of planning and adjustments to all of that R&D.
So where are most of your garments manufactured right now?
Yeah, so we do a lot in Asia, China, Vietnam, Indonesia. We do some here in the U.S. We do Honduras. We're open to new factories at any given moment. Hong Kong. We've got a lot of wonderful partners that have multiple locations across multiple countries, which makes moving a little bit easier, but certainly a very global footprint.
And what's the switching cost and the switching time?
So the switching cost in many cases, and I guess it answers both questions, in some cases is impossible, right? The IP we've built is often in conjunction with these factories, right? These are people who are specializing in fabric technology. You want a dress shirt that's machine washable, right? This was balled up in the seat back pocket in front of me last night. Shake it out and wear it on TV, right? If you want to do that, you can't just pick up and move. So in some cases, it means starting from scratch, right? In some cases, it does mean completely. In that case, you're talking about a 2-year timeline from absolute customer conversation concept to doorstep at a minimum 2 years.
What would it take for you to move back to the U.S., Aman? I'm just curious because there's just all this talk about reshoring, et cetera. How much more would your garments cost if you moved back here?
Interestingly, so I think that question can kind of be posed to two types of companies, right? You've got companies who are making commodities where the infrastructure exists and it's largely a pricing question, right? So in that case, it's probably just a purely financial question. In the case of a lot of direct consumer brands, and I'd say including ours, where the infrastructure simply doesn't exist today, the first step would be to build this layer of technology, this infrastructure behind all the clothing we make. So it isn't just a question of kind of would we need to raise prices X% to move back to the U.S. There's a much bigger existential question of how can we do that, right? These factories we've been working with for years now, we've vetted, we visit them, we have dinner with them every quarter, every year. And so it's a long, deep partnership we have with our factories to make sure that the wild innovations we're putting forth can actually come to life in a high quality way. So it unfortunately isn't so simple as saying it's a 5 or 10% lift. Again, for a commoditized good, for something from the incumbents, maybe so.
If I told you, I'm just curious. I'm sort of playing out the potentially America First President-elect Trump's sort of administration promise. If he said that he was going to either lower taxes because you were going to manufacture in the U.S. by 10%, I don't know, I'm making up the number, or he was going to implement taxes or tariffs rather on some of these other things, and then you start to put in the shipping costs and maybe some of the back and forth. You said you're having dinner with these folks. It means you're getting on a plane to go have that dinner. Hopefully, that's not taking up too much of your company's revenues. But at what point does it make sense to actually manufacture in the U.S., or is it almost impossible?
No, it actually in some cases the U.S. when we've done production in the U.S. it's actually been in some cases cheaper. I keep coming back to it's not purely. I think there's this assumption that U.S. manufacturing is purely a cost question. Our number one product a couple of years ago was 3D printed right in Los Angeles. So we were making clothes that were actually completely from yarn directly to garment, no waste, incredible technology. And it was our number one selling product that year. And so we do have U.S. production. We do support. We love U.S. production. We're a Massachusetts-based company. But in many cases, it's not just a question of dollars, right? It's a question of how do we bring that here, and then in a lot of cases, kind of continuing to support stuff like 3D printing and skilled labor and skilled manufacturing that we want to bring back on shore.
So that's a fair question. Do you think we have the skilled labor to do this?
We do, absolutely. I mean, it's all around us, right? We're in one of the greatest technology eras we'll ever see here in the U.S., and we have a ton of wonderful talent that can do this. Now, I think there's a question of, is it our top priority? Is it where we want to invest our next dollar? And that's a question that's beyond my paycheck.
Aman, I don't think anything's beyond your paycheck. We appreciate it. Happy holidays.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on, and thanks for always being so supportive of our brand. It means a ton to us.
Love the stuff because I wish I was wearing it so you could see what I'm talking about. Because it really does look like business clothing. And if you travel, it really, like it's what he said, you could put it up into a ball.
He looked very wrinkle-free.
He's very wrinkle-free.
Right,
it's an amazing
considering,
thing.
yeah.
No, it's like wearing, he won't like this. It's like wearing like Lululemon clothes, but comfortable, like yoga clothes.
Wear it tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow, I'll show you.
Something to look forward to.
Next on Squawk Pod, the top apps of Christmas. Our Steve Kovac has the details on the tech-connected holiday gifts winning out this year.
Did you see? I'm just curious because we're a Roblox family.
Yeah.
A lot of children asking for Robux.
Which is just basically asking for money.
You're listening to Squawk Pod from CNBC. Today with Andrew Ross Sorkin and Melissa Lee.
Up and Andrew, Q.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. With tech gadgets, where folks opening up on Christmas Day, I can tell you what was going on with the Sorkin family. Steve Kovac taking a closer look at the most downloaded apps. He joins us now with the results, so we might have a better sense of whether the Sorkins were in tune with the rest of the world.
Yeah, I'm curious what your trees looked like yesterday. But look, this is what I do every year. It tells us which companies scored the best on Christmas. You check the Apple Store app rankings for the top free apps, and it usually tells us two things every year. First of all, a good indication of what people are downloading when they get a new iPhone and have to download all their, standard apps again, Facebook, TikTok, what have you. And then second of all, it tells us what gadgets and accessories people got that need a companion app. Now, it's not a perfect system. This is just a snapshot in time, but it does show what tech gifts are given on Christmas, and the rankings tend to look a lot differently. So the winner here, Meta, the Meta Horizon app for those Quest virtual reality headsets, they've actually been the winner for the last few years. I've been tracking this. Meta also had the Meta View app for those Ray-Ban smart glasses that you like so much, Andrew. Those were in the top 40. Some other notable trends here. Lemonade, that is actually, you might not have heard of this one. It's another social video app from TikTok, which was as high as number 2 yesterday, showing a lot of people got new iPhones and downloaded this alternative to TikTok from TikTok ahead of that January 19th deadline.
Tell us about that, though. Before you go to the rest, tell us about that one.
It's TikTok makes it. It's called Lemon8, Lemon, and then the number 8. And it's kind of, I can't really describe it. It's like a mix of YouTube and TikTok.
And where are the servers based?
That I assume it's the same as TikTok. I don't know.
So we think that'll be blocked too. But January 19th, that's also on the list.
I feel like it has to be on the list
TikTok
as well.
The US TikTok servers are in the US.
No, I know.
So
but
that's what they keep saying.
But
it is owned by TikTok, which is owned by ByteDance. So presumably, but the way I read it was maybe kids are looking for alternatives. Meanwhile,
get in while you can. You
might as well download it now. It's going to be gone. Meanwhile, you have Amazon. Amazon, another big winner this year. Alexa, the app for controlling all your smart home stuff, that was number 2 by the late evening yesterday, meaning we saw a lot of Echoes and other smart home appliances under the Christmas trees yesterday. Another sign Amazon devices were selling pretty well. The Parent Dashboard app from Amazon, that's what you use to control your kids' devices. I read this as it's likely those Kindle Fire tablets that sell for pretty cheap, good for kids when you don't want to spend all that money on an iPad. And then in the fitness category, you'll like this one, Andrew, Aura, for the Aura ring that you like to wear so much. That was at number 36.
Wow,
but
good for
Garmin
them.
was ahead of them at number 33. They make those GPS smartwatches. Don't know how many Apple Watches were sold because that app is already built on the iPhone, so there's no indication there. You might be asking, why am I focusing so much on the Apple App Store? What about Android? Well, Android store looked a little weird when we looked yesterday. A PDF app was at the very top of the list. Other than that, it was services like WhatsApp and PayPal that were trending. One notable thing we noticed in the Android App Store, though, move to iOS. That's Apple's app for moving data from your iPhone, from your Android phone to your iPhone when you get a new iPhone. That was in the top 40. So that I read as a sort of indication that maybe people were switching over the holiday as well. One other thing that stuck out to me, and I know you guys have children, I don't. So this was a totally new one for me. Tony's.
Tony's, yes.
Do you know that one?
Yes, I
okay,
do.
so you have young kids.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this. It's this
it's like a little box.
Speaker, a box.
Yeah.
Apparently it's big on TikTok. You take a little character, you put it on top. Remember Teddy Ruxpin back in the 80s and 90s?
Do you have one in your
sort of
household?
like that.
I don't think we have one, but I know about
Wait,
them.
like you have like a Paw Patrol Tony,
Right,
you
and
put it in,
it
and
tells
then
a
there's like a
story.
story or songs. And
Your
things
kids like this?
We did not get it this Christmas,
Okay.
but we almost did. It's really interesting because you don't have to be hooked up to the internet. The kids can operate it themselves. And I think that for a lot of technological devices, it's always, Mom, how do you do this? You know, sort of.
And you buy these little characters, and that's how they get you, right? That
Right.
You buy these little
It's
characters.
like the razor blade.
Exactly. And then they tell a little story, and you can take it off, and it looks really cute. Literally never heard of this till yesterday. I actually had to research this one, but
Did
another
you
hot
see?
seller.
I'm just curious because we're a Roblox family.
Yeah.
Were there a lot of was Roblox
There are a lot of
high on the
games.
list?
I forget
'Cause
exactly
a lot
where
of
Roblox
people,
is
a lot of children
ranking.
asking for Robux
Yes,
this year.
that is another big one.
Which is just basically asking for money.
But in
Basically
gaming,
asking for money,
gaming,
so they can
you
buy
have the
clothes
PlayStation app.
and digital clothes and digital things.
Exactly. But you also have
Sounds
the
like a great
PlayStation app,
investment.
Xbox app, and the Nintendo Switch parental control app. We're
Ooh, the
ranking
parental-
up there too as well. So
By the way,
it's
the
a lot of
parental
gaming.
controls on Roblox I've now implemented.
Good.
Pretty good, I think.
Good.
I don't know. I'm hoping.
They got a lot of work to do.
They were working on it. But
Yeah.
I think that this new setup seems to be better.
Yeah, way better.
Okay, Steve, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
That's Squawk Pod for today, this day after Christmas 2024. Thanks for listening. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernan, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Kudos to Melissa Lee for sitting in today. You can tune in any weekday morning on CNBC at 6 Eastern, or get the smartest takes and analysis from our TV show right into your ears when you follow Squawk Pod, wherever you get your podcasts. That's it. We'll meet you right back here tomorrow.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.